Hello everybody, how's it going? Mark here, and today I'll be talking about the Mercenaries characters for Mordheim Paramod and how they fare in my opinion. And we're just gonna get into it right away, so we're gonna be starting with the captain. And I'll just kind of like put it like already here. So the thing about captain is that it's a pretty damn good unit. I really like kind of just putting Captain into the insane category because of his passive, but also because of his like stat distribution. So with like Captain, it is relatively easy for you to get like toughness, like 15 toughness for Hardy. And what I like about the Captain is I think Captain is probably the best Ogre leader in the game because you are using like very effectively your orders. So like as an example, like imagine that you're playing with an ogre, a captain. You're gonna spend your offensive points on the ogre to order him around and do all the attacking and stuff. And the ogre will probably kill the target, and now you have like 0 offensive points. So you're going to Web of Steel. And the amazing thing about the Web of Steel is that now, if the enemy wants to make you stop ordering your ogre around, they have to go through all that parry, and all your counter attacks will cause actually 0 offense points. So you're gonna get like some free damage that way, and in that sort of a way, Captain can be like a very sort of an annoying unit to deal with. So I just kind of like this free damage that you can get out of the Captain. Obviously, the biggest counter to Captain, uh, well, the biggest counters to Captain is like Unlucky Jaw Strike, for example, but also like all the parry piercing characters and stuff. The best way to actually deal with parry piercing characters for the captain in Mordheim is to just kill them, and you should just kind of like accept that this is like a thing that you won't be able to deal with effectively. Also, like captain has relatively well, it doesn't have like relatively free passive slots because you kind of have to take the battle tank. And again, like this is why I think it would be a good idea for the rework of the order, because you would have like it would be not a necessity for you to always go for the battle tank, and that also just kind of gives more flexibility into the build, so you might be able to like bring something else and stuff. You are also like potentially able to grab some magic resistance if you want with a captain. That's also a possibility. You can also like make this sort of a melee resistance tank captain, which kind of focuses on serenity, and like whenever he parries he gets like some additional melee resistance, so that's also like a sort of thing that you can do. Yeah, that's about it. It's like a pretty damn good unit overall, as long as the captain is able to order. If you're gonna be ordering around, I always recommend mastery of the order, because that 30 range is gonna be quite a big difference instead of like the 15 range. Sometimes, occasionally, I see people running on the captain halberd. I think that's just kind of a bait. I don't think it's worth it. I think you should always go for a shield and one-handed weapon of the captain. Or like in the previous tournament, I played a captain with a swap to one-handed sword without a shield. So you have a potential to actually like swap to one-handed sword without a shield. That's also a possibility. I think that you can do with captain potentially. And yeah, I think that's about it. So let's move on to the next unit, and that is Youngblood. So let's just kind of like uh, pop in, pop him in here, and I guess I'll just put him right away into the kind of bad tier. And I very obviously put this unit into the kind of bad tier because you know how sometimes you like give somebody like a compliment that they are like a jack of all trades. That's kind of like the issue with um, this sort of a guy, that he's like a master of nothing. So like no matter how you look at this character, other characters kind of do it better, arguably. So for example, if you're playing like a ranged, God, what the fuck is this name? What the fuck is the name of this character? I forgot. Oh, Youngblood. So if you're playing like a ranged character, LGT Marksman is probably going to do it better. Arguably, this girl is going to do it better. So that's kind of a problem. If you're playing like a melee unit, well, then Champion is probably gonna do it better. And Warrior, LGT Warrior is probably gonna do it better. And that's kind of like the thing. So like, based on the stats of the Youngblood, he is kind of like leaning more towards like the ballistic skills, but its passive is like a melee skill. And the issue is also that the melee skill is not all that good. Like in vanilla, in my opinion, I never played vanilla to be honest, or like any PvP in vanilla, but I think like this sort of a skill was 100 times better, or like more interesting, rather than the current iteration. So currently in Paramod, you don't necessarily have to like hit this skill, but what it actually does, it like increases the SP cost of reload and swapping. So like Youngblood is supposed to be like this sort of a character who is a bit of an opportunist in like catching like shooters off guard so that they are not able to swap in vanilla. In like the Paramount, I'm not sure if it is enough. Like as an example, like I was for example playing against Ada, and he had like this young blood, and he like used this Squire's curse on me like twice or something. I was still able to swap and tutor him because of that, because it only cost like 6 SP. It didn't like make me actually unable to swap. So I think like the debuff should be like a little bit more severe. Maybe it should like also add like more offensive points to the swap, so that it's like more painful to swap, or possibly, well, what else would I say? Um, or like the reload. I guess the reload thing can be significant enough against the ranged character, but if you're like pinning down ranged character, then I don't know. Anyway, I think just like the vanilla version of the passive was just kind of the best, just because it kind of like gave you the opportunity to sometimes like, hey, catch like a person off guard and like, hey, I got you. And I think it's like completely okay to be like in this sort of a, to get punished for this sort of a thing that, okay, I maybe like put my unit I didn't put my unit correctly out there, and now it's getting like punished for it. And you're not able to swap. Like I can understand it might feel awful, but like still you have like other Warband members to maybe free this character out. I mean, it's a lot. I think one of the things that I heard, I don't know if it was like Fenrir who said that or whoever else it was. Somebody was saying like, oh, but with Youngblood, what it has going against Marksman is able to bring heavy armor for your shooter. Well, your shooters probably shouldn't be having heavy armor in the first place, in my opinion. So, like, the melee Youngblood, it kind of sucks. And the ballistic Youngblood, it is totally playable, but like, there are better characters. Oh, technically speaking, maybe like one thing that Youngblood has going for it is that it can be like a decent dodge tank. It's probably like the only dodge tank unit that these guys have. I guess he does have that niche. I guess he does have that niche. And I did play actually like Dodge Tank, Youngblood. Hmm. Uh, oh, right. Paranoia like was saying like this sort of a story that Youngblood used to block reload and switch weapons for 3 turns and have movements 7. Well, honestly, if it was like um, blocking, switch weapons and reload for 3 turns, that's completely insane. That's why I think like the vanilla version of just like 1 turn is so much more reasonable because you still have to like hit it to make it work. And like that's kind of like one of the things, and like probably one of my biggest criticisms of the mod is that like not everything has to last 3 turns. Like sometimes it's okay if something, some sort of effect lasts 1 turn, or if it lasts 2 turns, right? Like for example with the nerf shot, it was made to last only 2 turns as the mastery, and I think that's completely fine. I think that's kind of reasonable. Um, yeah, or like for example, in my opinion, like knee shot, I think it should just last for 1 turn, so that like if somebody like fails to 2 turn you, you can kind of like to turn them back, you know? But like, yeah, that's like a completely different discussion. So maybe let's not get there. Oh, and he used to have like movement speed 7. Like honestly, I think that would be the saving grace of the character if it actually had movement speed 7. Technically speaking, I mean, is this like a sort of a thing that would like make or break a character like movement speed 7? I don't necessarily think so. And actually, like on dodge characters, you do usually want like higher movement speed because they just need more of that SP so that they are actually able to enter that dodge stance, and have that. Oh, but the thing is, like the 9 leadership. That's kind of like an awkward thing, but technically you can just fix it with nerves of steel. I don't know. I don't know. Technically, you can also just make that ballistic sort of a skill guy completely okay to do. Just take like this, the ballistic skill, maybe do a veteran. Boom, you have it. And if really that one movement speed is going to break this character, then maybe get the knowledge Mordheim. Maybe that's kind of like the only thing that this character has going against this this guy right here, the last good talent, is that this character has like more access, bigger access to the passive skills. Um, but this guy's still probably gonna do it better. So let's go next one, and the next character that we have is actually Warlock. Oh, yeah, maybe that's kind of like the thing that I was thinking about with the Warlock. That Warlock is actually like a 100 times better melee resistance tank, or like a dodge tank, rather than the Youngblood. So even like Warlock is kind of like stepping on that territory. I'm gonna be putting Warlock in the like I could like maybe put him between God tier or insane, but I'm gonna like put him into the insane tier for very one simple reason, and that is that if he gets swarmed, or you mess up, or you fail to protect him, uh, or like for example, the enemy has like so much magic resistance that you're like not even able to pierce it. Yeah, this character starts having like some problems. But I would say the Warlock has more or less 2 builds. One of them is like a melee resistance tank Serenity build, which is like completely supported by the spells. And I think this is really freaking cool and 100 times better than the Youngblood build. Because you're actually doing something with your spells. And the other build is an artillery. Uh, artillery Warlock, which can have like up to 42 ranged so you're able to cast from really far away and you're just kind of like harassing them. And I think that's kind of just like the entire playstyle, more or less, for mercenaries. I mean, you can play mercenaries also as like the sort of a charge build, like let's get in like and mess them up. But like to me, mercenaries are this sort of a fortress warband, which is just like slowly moving around, and you just like from distance, either you attack with like arrows, or you cast spells at the enemy, and you're trying to force the enemy to come to you. Once they actually come to you, then you mess them up with your warriors. Then you mess them up with your ogres or like your champions. I think, to me, in my head, mercenaries are like a very defensive play playstyle warband, and I think that's actually really cool. Um, yeah, I guess that's about it. If you're playing Warlock, then you probably want to invest into quick casting. Also, there's like a sort of a interesting thing with Warlock is that you have quite a few interesting options for the head enchantment. You can either go for that increased magic range, or you can either increase the spell damage, or you can go for innervation and just kind of play casino to get as many lightning strikes as possible. And yeah, like it's like a very good unit. You can also like potentially support your warlock, because warlock can pierce with the right build, can pierce like 30% magic resistance. If you need to build or like pierce even more, you can either make a support archer, which has the rune of enervation, which reduces magic resistance. That's one thing. The other thing is maybe you can get like novices with the Sigmarite Warhammers, which reduce magic resistance. I made like warbands with like double warlocks, and it's kind of like very cool. Actually, I know that like most of my content on YouTube is mostly sisters. Previous tournaments I've been playing like mercenaries, and the very first tournament I played Skaven. I might upload actually some games from previous tournaments with the mercenaries, but they're kind of just like all over the place because some of them I forgot to download. They're like very old. I might upload them later. Yeah, I actually really like what you've done with the Warlock. I think it's really cool. Uh, the magic resistance piercing, I think, makes sense. I like it. Let's move on to the next character, and the next character is Champion. So, like, the biggest weakness, or there are like several. No, where am I freaking putting this guy? I don't think he's like really good. For sure. Is he good? Honestly, I feel like Champion is just like a not bad unit. The thing that Champion has kind of like going for itself, I think if you're playing Champion, then you should be playing like a high damage dealing Champion, trying to do as much damage as possible. The best thing that Champion has going for himself is the fact they have like a lot of martial stats, so you have relatively easy time actually hitting like 20 weapon skill, while also hitting like 15 accuracy. And usually with Champion, you are using that 15 accuracy. Well, you can also use it for like charge builds. If you want to like make a two-handed Zweihander Wolf Priest sort of a build, you can do that. But usually you just use it for armor piercing mastery skill, which like reduces armor by 20%. And like maybe kind of play like this sort of a more supportive play style. What I kind of like dislike about Champion, that he's supposed to be like this sort of a bruisery guy in a way. Where am I going with this? Right. So like he actually has a hard time getting to Hardy mastery and armor proficient mastery. If you want to get that, you also have to like invest 4 skill points into veteran, and I don't think that's worth it. So like champion is like in this sort of a weird spot, I guess. You are actually, I think, also able to play like a Daredevil build, possibly, with thing called Halberd. Actually, one of the things like that champion has going for himself is like a halberd use. Because usually, if you're using like a halberd, you don't usually have enough like parry chance to like parry attacks and stuff. But as your champion is taking like more and more damage, the more like parry you're gonna be getting. So actually, like even like a web of steel mastery, uh, kind of makes sense on this character. Getting like making him like a dodge tank is kind of a meme, honestly, or like a counter to Daredevil. I think that's a bit of a meme. You can also just build him like a sort of a supportive unit for your archers. So you're, for example, able to build like a kidney strike, reduces range resistance, but you're also able to combine it with that armor piercing debuff. So you kind of like set up your archers with your crossbows, and they start killing the target with like true damage. If I'm using League of Legends terms. Champion's default will likely get changed into plus melee resistance, dodge, and range resistance instead of parry, dodge, and range resistance, so it differs more from Captain. I actually like that idea. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think this was like my feedback in the past previously. That yeah, like I kind of like the idea of like making the identity of the champion like more melee resistance oriented, because we already have like parry tank and captain. True damage is not specific to LoL. I mean, I believe League of Legends coined the term true damage, didn't they? I mean, technically, it's like, I mean, they made like a band. I'm sorry. Uh, I think that was like honestly the first time I saw the term true damage was from League of Legends, but maybe like when they released Olaf, I'm not sure. That was like ages ago, right? Let's talk about like the leader version. It's like very similar to the captain, is that he can also just rack up all of parry. But the weird thing about this sort of a champion is that I think if you're playing like a born leader champion, I think you should be actually playing like a damage dealing champion instead of like an older champion. Probably one of the most annoying things about like the older, well, there are two super annoying things about older champion, because you're probably wanting to hit like 15 strength for armor proficient mastery and the mastery hardy. Ideally, you would want to combine it with I forgot the name. It's like plus 15% crit resistance. Is the flawless positioning, right? Because like 15% is like better than resilient or like luck rune. And then you don't stop for battle tank. So again, like this is like another reason why I think it would be a good idea to make the change of order costing 2 SP and 3 OP. I'm just kind of repeating myself all the time because it would allow champion, like give them like more options to do this stuff. But they're kind of like very similar. I think I just kind of like overall like Captain more. And the thing about Captain is that you're also able to play like heavy armor Captain. Heavy armor Captain, you're actually able to reach quite easily plus 15 intelligence, and you can like invest it into the knowledge Mordheim mastery. So, I don't think like these two characters are that much different opinion. The next character that we have is actually Ogre. The Ogre mercenary is probably, I think that's honestly probably the best impressive in the game. Because like not only has this character like 7 movement speed, it also has like amazing stats. You also have like pretty good stats to actually go for and intimidate, to mess with people. You are also supported by one of the best order leaders, which is the captain. So like this guy just has like a lot of good stuff going for himself, and you have like also a lot of freedom like in how you can build the character. You can also just build him like completely like armor out. You can also build him like very high magic resistance. You're also able to build this character with high melee resistance, which is kind of interesting and fascinating. You are also able to build like a daredevil build or just like a frenzy build. Like your martial stats are also very good, so you can also like get the armor piercing plus 20%, but you can also just support it with other characters quite well. I mean, you're gonna have like Marksman. Marksman can be like amazing support character for an ogre if you're like, for example, worried about Web of Steel or something like that. Like Nerf Shot is gonna be taking care of that quite well. And not to mention, you also have like access to maces. So if, for example, you're facing a melee resistance tank, the easiest way to deal with them is just like swapping to maces. If you're not playing the Daredevil version, just swapping to maces, and then stacking up Perseverance until you're able to hit the target, and that should be like relatively easy to achieve. Like you can build him in like 1 million ways. You can like make him like a pure damage dealer. You can make him Giga Tank, can do with him whatever you want. And that's neat. Alright, let's go for the next unit in the tier list, and that's gonna be the Warrior. So overall, I feel like Warrior is like a very... I think it's a good unit, honestly. You can go like the heavy armor route with knowledge Mordheim possibly, or with like armor proficient. I don't necessarily think that knowledge Mordheim is necessarily a necessity for the warrior, and just because, like I was saying, I think mercenaries are the sort of a warband that wants to pressure the enemy and make the enemy come into you. Um, Another like amazing thing about warrior is you can also like make some sort of like warrior builds which are very good at like piercing parry, like spears and stuff. A good thing about the warrior is that they will always eventually beat melee resistance tanks. The more you mess with the warrior, the more you're going to hit. So like melee resistance builds are not safe from warriors. I think that's kind of like really cool thing. Also, like warrior is like a sort of a unit that you're able to order. You can like go to double weapons, start hitting your targets. But like in my head, like these henchmen warriors are more of like bodyguards for the other units, but you can like make them like high damage dealing warriors, just like for example Zito did in the Bob tournament. Yeah. As for the Let's Go to Talent warrior, honestly, I never actually played Let's Go to Talent. The thing I dislike about the Let's Go to Talent warrior is that it actually has relatively hard time actually hitting the plus 15 toughness for hardy mastery, but I can like totally see a warrior being like the sort of a damage dealing machine as like an it might be also like a better damage dealer than the champion just because passive, right? You're gonna always be eventually hitting. um I'm not sure how to feel about like Let's Go Talent warriors. Personally, I'm not like all that excited about Let's Go Talent warriors. I think they're fine. Again, I don't think they're like completely crazy or they're like breaking game or anything. Like to me, they kind of feel like a not bad category. In a lot of ways, they feel like champion. Very similar units. So I think I would just kind of like put them here. Next character that we have is actually Marksman. So for the Marksman, I would actually put this unit. I would just kind of like put this into like good category. Obviously, the passive on Marksman is like very good, but the henchman version of Marksman does not make as good of a use of this sort of a thing as just like the Lance Got Talent version. But they can like make damage dealing henchmen at range. That's a possibility. But you can also make them like very good support archers with knee shot or like crippling shot or something like that. There's like a lot of possibilities where you can take this character. Another thing that you kind of like with the support archer, that you're able to stack it, the knee shots with the mastery version from the Let's Got Talent, so they're kind of like helping each other in a way. Maybe like one thing that I personally like doing on Marksman is giving them acrobatic, because like the physical stats of Marksman are not that good overall. I very often like getting like acrobatic instead of like any resilient or like any luck runes or something like that. Just grab acrobatic on the Marksman, and then you're able to put all of your points into more toughness, and you're gonna have like a relatively tough guy who is also able to flee, and that's kind of like the thing that you want to do with Marksman. Oh, one more advice regarding Marksman is how you like position it on the battlefield. You almost never ever I mean that's kind of like with any sort of a ballistic skill character, you almost never ever want to put it against the wall. Ideally, you want to like put your kind of ranged character in the middle of the battlefield so that if you get engaged, you're able to disengage. And if the enemy really wants to prevent you from like doing anything with your ranged character, they have to like use two characters, one from the one side and one from the other side, so that they are not able to do anything. And in that case, you're kind of winning because enemy is using two characters against you while you're wasting their time with one character. One more thing that kind of like randomly thought of is I sometimes use the rune of climbing on this guy, just to like, because sometimes you just kind of die if you don't pass the climbing test. The next character that we have is the LGT version of Marksman. So the LGT version of Marksman, I could potentially like put it into God's tier, I could potentially put it into Insane. I'm putting it into the Insane tier. Like at range, this unit can do like completely insane damage. It can be like amazing support character, for example, for your Ogre with the knee shots and stuff, but you can also do like a damage dealing character. You can either do like an armor piercing guy with a crossbow, or you could also potentially do like a crit damage building with a longbow and you're like a sharpshooter. That's also very cool. And there's also like different variations of this Marksman. So you're, for example, Kitten Paul played like this vital shot crit archer, that's a possibility for you to do. Or you can also play like a sniper shot variation, or you can just do like regular attacks with hunter and just trying to get as much crit as possible with sharpshooter. I think I like that version the most. Hunter you only get on like the damage dealing characters, obviously, because you're like doing the basic shots. And you'd especially need it if you like play use like crossbows and stuff. The reason why this character is in insane tier and not in god tier is if the enemy knows that you have like marksman and stuff, they can very often just hide in buildings. They don't have like the luxury like the warlock has, because the warlock can have like the luxury that if you just see 1 millimeter of the character, you're able to cast spells on it. If you just see 1 millimeter of the character, you cannot shoot it. Right? Oh, and obviously also like the passive is completely amazing. It's like self-correcting, so the more you shoot and the more you miss, the higher your hit chances. So you're gonna be able to basically beat more or less all of the range resistance built Marksman, which is kind of cool. I mean, the reason like Marksman is so amazing is because of its stats, right? It is like amazing martial stats, which allow it to like build a lot of different ways. Next character which we're going to be talking about is this guy, Smuggler. I actually think like this crit Smuggler sort of a build is pretty good with this warband, because like you could like make like a very ranged heavy warband, and like this sniper shot, crit sniper shot with this guy, it can go like well hand in hand. So like for example, if this guy stuns the target and she follows up with a sniper shot, we're gonna get additional plus 20% chance to crit. So this can be like very nice. For the melee Smuggler, I think it can be also like very nice, for example, if you do like some sort of a charging build together with a Wolf Priest or like a champion. That can be also like very nice as well. And I think like everything else that I kind of talked about Smuggler, I think I kind of like spoke about it in the Sisters warband. I think it's just kind of like good. And Wolf Priest for these guys, I think it's like really freaking good, mostly because of the buff that you can like provide for the Ogre, right? The more hit chance is like very freaking nice. Not to mention you can do also the Howl of the Wolf. Oh, right. Maybe I should also like talk briefly about Howl of the Wolf, because there was this like insane build, or there still is this insane build where you stack Howl of the Wolves and you combine it with Tactician, and you have like almost 1 million charges for one offensive. But yeah, that was like a long time ago. But it's still like possible to build. I expect it's gonna change. But I think I'm just gonna put this guy into a really good category. I think like overall, Warlock is kind of like the better spell damage caster, but you can also like do them like brothers, you know, spell damage brothers. Maybe he deserves to be in the insane tier, but I think I'm just gonna put him into the really good category. And I think Wolf Priest is the character that allows mercenaries to be played in like a more chargy sort of way. Like I'm gonna like rush you and for you, I guess. And finally, let's talk about the most annoying thing, or like my pet peeve with leader champion, and that's like its stats. Its stats like are incredibly frustrating. When I distribute these stats, like I can put like 15 strength here, I can put like 15 toughness here, and I have like 1 point left over. Here, in the martial stats, I have like 18 weapon skill, and I have like 15 accuracy, and I have like 1 point left over. This is really annoying. So like for example, I could give you like weapon skill, and I can like put this 1 point here. Like I'm 1 off, and that's like annoying. But also, now I have to like invest this physical point into the agility, right? That's really annoying. The other thing is like maybe I could do it like this way. Maybe I could like go for Book of Training accuracy. And then I could like put this point here, so I can like max out my weapon skill with the test piece, but still I need to like put this physical point into agility, which I don't care about. That's kind of annoying. Another thing is, okay, maybe I don't want to like put this into agility or accuracy, right? Maybe I want to like put this into toughness, right? I have like as much toughness as possible, so I can like put this here and like have 16 toughness, and I no longer have to use this agility. But now for the martial, I have like 1 unspent point, and I have to like use it for ballistic skill because I don't have like anything better to do. So like if this character could just have like maximum of like 16 accuracy, it would make my day, you know.